Hi friends, and welcome back to the Meditative Aiden YouTube channel, where we talk about how to develop mindfulness and mindful tools, tips, and tricks to help you work through the challenges and experiences of everyday life. My name is Aiden, and today we're going to be talking about smart mindful goals. In today's video, we're going to talk about some of the challenges that we face in developing daily mindful practices. We're going to talk about setting an intent. We're going to talk about SMART goals, and then we're going to talk about accountability and rewards. And all of this will hopefully give you an idea of how to set goals for developing a stronger mindfulness practice, while also giving you a strong idea of how to set goals for everyday life. So first and foremost, one of the things that I really struggle with when I want to develop mindful practices is that I want to do it right now. And I want to be mindful right now. I want to have the benefits, yada, yada, yada. And I think a lot of us are really similar in that, when we develop these things, we want them to come now. The thing is that it's kind of like learning to play the piano. With the piano, you can sit down and try to practice and whatever, but if you don't have deliberate practice with a goal in mind, you're not going to make as much progress as someone who has that goal in mind and is making deliberate practice. While this sounds pretty self-explanatory, the reason is that humans are designed to have a goal in mind. Humans need something to reach towards in order to, one, feel like they're getting something out of life, and also to ensure that they're actually accomplishing something. It's part of our motivational structure to be that way. So the solution to the situation where you're trying to implement mindful practices, or you're trying to do something in life and you have to set, there's some outcome that you need, but you're just not getting. The solution is to develop mindfulness-based goals. And in these goals, the very first thing that we need to do is sit down and figure out what our outcome is going to be. I mentioned that in the Minimalists blog, they talk about when you're setting goals, you need to think about the outcome. What is it that you're going to walk away from the situation with? What is it you're going to walk away from this goal with? And furthermore, why are you interested in pursuing this goal? These two questions lay the foundation for where you're actually trying to go. So first, asking yourself the first question about the outcome. What is my intended outcome? Where do I want to be when this is over? And then the second question, what is my intent? Why do I want this goal? So for a mindfulness related goal, this might be something like, in the end, my outcome is going to be that I have reduced anxiety or depression or anger. And the reason that I'm doing this, why I want to do this, is because it affects my work, it affects my family life and my social life. Understanding some of these foundational ideas right there gives you some motivation for pursuing your goal and helps remind you of the implications of not accomplishing it. Because if you are motivated to accomplish your goal in that way, you're going to constantly think about, okay, remember that, if I don't accomplish this, if I don't do it today, my outcome is going to be harder to attain. So the next thing is with the SMART goal itself. This acronym helps you take that intent and that outcome you desire and puts it into a realistic structure for how you're actually going to reach that outcome. So what this means, SMART is an acronym. S stands for specific. And specific means that instead of referring to something vaguely, you're adding a lot of detail to it. An example, this means that instead of saying, I want to develop mindfulness, instead of saying that, you're going to say, I want to reduce the levels of my anxiety. This helps focus on your intent and create a stronger connection with what it is you're really trying to accomplish. The next acronym letter is M, which is measurable. And what this really focuses on is, how are you going to measure your progress? How are you going to know that you're making any progress towards that outcome? How are you going to know that your anxiety is being reduced, that you're not experiencing as severe of depression? Some of the measures that you might include could be, I'm going to take a test every 2 weeks, and it's going to measure how much anxiety I have, and I want to make sure that I'm reducing my anxiety by at least, X% every week, or something like that. Another goal, to use kind of a fitness analogy, is, which I always find these really easy because fitness is a little easier to measure than a lot of the stuff in your head. Fitness related measurable goal is going to say, I want to be able to run 1 mile in under 5 minutes, or something like that. The next acronym, the letter is A, which stands for achievable. And what this focuses on is, are you setting a goal that's actually, realistic? Are you setting a goal that you can actually achieve? So for me to expect myself to be the world's best bodybuilder, heaviest weightlifter, is probably not realistic given my situation. The reason I say that, and I'm probably capable of reaching some degree of fame in that or whatever, but with my diabetes and my education and my other goals, I know that that's not realistic for me. That's not achievable. In addition, if you expect yourself with mindfulness to attain some level of Buddhahood or to attain some level of grand master of mindfulness, you're likely not going to obtain that. And that's not to say that you can't expect that vision to come true. You just need to make sure to stay true to yourself with your expectations. Now, the thing about achievable, this part of the SMART acronym, is that it's kind of a reality check. Just trying to make sure that you're setting a goal that is really just reasonable. And this blends into the next part, which is relevant, the R. Relevant is you asking yourself if this goal is actually going to help you in your life right now. And again, this blends in with achievable because these two questions are that reality check to make sure that your goal is in the right place at the right time. The next one is T, which is time bound. What this does is it adds a measure of time. When are you going to accomplish this by? And the reason that this is important is because so often we set these goals kind of like New Year's resolutions, and we just kind of expect ourselves to have made progress. But time-bound ensures that we're setting milestones for, I'm going to make hopefully this kind of progress by this time, and this is my deadline to make this amount of progress. What time-bound does is it helps you focus on how much time you have to complete it, how much time you need, and really kind of keeps you in not a time crunch per se, but keeps you focused on your priorities at the time. So all of this together, using SMART, a SMART goal will not look like this. I want to be more mindful. The reason that goal sucks is because there is nothing specific, there is no way to measure how it's going to happen. There's just too little detail for you to work off of. This is how a lot of us set our usual goals, is we just kind of say, I want to be like this, and then expect something to happen. But a SMART goal looks something like this. I want to reduce the levels of my anxiety by 3% every week for the next 6 months using mindful practices and tools. I will take an anxiety measuring test every week to see how much progress I'm making. And then on top of that, I'm going to try to implement mindful practices at least 2 to 3 times a week. The reason this goal is so much better than the last one, as you can probably tell, is because you're adding action items, you're adding that timeline, you're adding all these things to help you understand the road ahead of you, what you're actually going to do and the steps you need to take to get there. But with all of this in mind, we're still not done, because if you're the only one accountable for your goals, you're likely in danger of not accomplishing them still. And the reason is that we need to maintain accountability of what we're doing. Now, accountability means to be responsible for the task at hand. So if you are maintaining accountability, it's hard to do it yourself because you're biased towards yourself. What I usually find most beneficial is to let someone or something know what it is that I'm planning on doing so that they can help keep me accountable for this goal that I've set. So you might use your best friend, you might use a really close coworker, or you can also use software or apps on your phone that help remind you of the deadlines that you're trying to meet. What this does is it helps keep you in focus and remind you of what it is that you need to do, kind of like I mentioned before. But on top of this, you need to make sure that you're building rewards into your system for your goal. And the reason that this is important is because goals are not as easy to accomplish if you don't feel like you're getting something out of it along the way. It's kind of part of, just regular psychology that most of us in general don't want to do things unless we're not rewarded for it. So in an example, using the mindfulness goal that we kind of went through earlier, the reason that saying, I want to become more mindful isn't necessarily good is because how do you know what to reward yourself for? But in the latter goal that we set with all of the different measurements and things, you know that you can set rewards at specific milestones across that time. So in that example, you might reward yourself every month depending on how much you've been able to accomplish. So if you say you want to reduce your anxiety by 3% every week, that means by the end of the month, your tests that you're taking need to be reduced by 12%. Your anxiety needs to be reduced by 12%. So then using all of that, you say, okay, if I actually can accomplish that, then what I'm going to do is add an extra $5 into my spending account. Or my personal favorite is buying Lego minifigures. I love them so much. And what this does is it helps keep your brain stimulated to continue accomplishing the goal at hand. So you set these milestones and you set these milestone rewards for the goal you're accomplishing. But you also need to remember that at the very end of your goal, there needs to be a little bit more of a significant reward for having accomplished it. Because your brain isn't going to respond to a small reward at the end like it does during the actual goal itself. So this might include, I'm going to add $50 into my paycheck, or $50 into my personal spending account, or I'll take myself on a small trip, or something like that. Now, this is where accountability comes back in, because accountability is making sure that you are not rewarding yourself without having accomplished what you said you would. So in review, we've talked about thinking about the outcome, asking yourself what the end game is. What's going to happen by the end of the goal? What do you want to get out of this? We've talked about why you're setting this goal, understanding your intent and the motivation for doing it. We've talked about the SMART goal, making sure it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. All of that helps add structure and clarity to the path that you're going to tread as you work towards that goal. We've also talked about accountability and how that ensures that you're actually making progress and keeping you on track, which also ties in with the rewards that we talked about, which keeps you motivated to continue pursuing the goal, to make you feel like you're getting something out of it. As you set mindfulness-related goals and you use this pattern, you use this method, you'll find that the goals that you accomplish are more meaningful to you and you'll be able to create more progress over time. If you're having a difficult time setting goals or remembering everything we've talked about, I have a document that I've created just for you, which focuses on all of those elements in a really easy, simple to understand format that you can work through at your own pace, at your own time. You can find that document on the blog post on the website meditativeaiden.com. It's going to be under the blog post SMART Goals, SMART Mindful Goals. Now, with that sheet, it's really important to remember that when you set these goals, you've got to remind yourself that you're working towards it. So when I set goals, I like to make sure that I put them in a place that I can always remember, where I can always see them and constantly be reminded of what it is that I'm working towards. So I can put it on the mirror, or I'll put it, next to my bed, or I'll put it on my phone as my background or something like that. And all of this helps you remember to focus on the goal at hand. As you set mindful goals, I know that you'll accomplish a lot more. You'll find a lot more fulfillment in what you're doing. And I know that as you tread the journey of mindfulness, you can develop some tools and techniques that will really help you work through those challenges that you're facing. I really hope you guys got something out of today's video. If nothing else, I hope this was a refresher for you to help remind you of kind of the process you need to go through to make sure that you're making progress. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to message me, to comment below, or to get on the website and get in touch. I'll do my best to respond in as timely of a manner as possible. Otherwise, remember that you can follow and subscribe on Facebook or Instagram. Again, I don't know if you can subscribe on either of those, but you can like and follow. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it below, subscribe if you're interested in learning more, and other than that, I hope you guys take some time to sit down, set some mindful goals, and I'll see you again next week.